A lot of the time, the reason why we call games the best games is that they've just got incredible level design. But even the best video games have some clunkers. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, the 10 worst levels in the best video games. Kicking it off at number 10, it's Cortana from Halo 3. I want to say this is probably one of the more obvious ones, so let's definitely get this one out of the way. The 9th campaign mission of Halo 3 is about as far from a standard Halo mission as you can get. Instead of the usual wide open spaces and variety of weapons and vehicles that a normal Halo level would indulge you with, this time Master Chief is trapped in a cramped and confusing place, taking on a seemingly endless onslaught of incredibly annoying enemies. Another level that gets mentioned a lot when you're talking about the worst levels, it's the library from Halo 1. And yeah, that level's pretty repetitive, but it's got a lot of wide hallways and open areas that make fighting the Flood at least tolerable. Cortana, not so much. This level has almost none of that. It seems like there's stuff trying to kill you anywhere, and you can't take 2 steps without getting pelted with needles from those annoying turrets that are everywhere. And there's Flood just popping out of these pods that are all over the place. It's really endless. To top it off, everything just looks exactly the same. The enemies blend into the environment, so they're hard to see. Whole place is a slog. It's bad enough on normal, but put it on heroic or legendary, and it's just torture. At number 9 is Ascension from Crysis. Ask anybody who, likes Crysis where it starts to go downhill. 9 times out of 10, they're going to say when the aliens show up. The first real encounter with aliens occurs in the mission Core, where you're floating around inside the mountain. Some people hate that mission because it's such a departure from the rest of the game, but I know a lot of people who like it too. It's different, but in an interesting way. At least that's what I think. Still, that's the turning point. I don't think you can deny that. The game gets worse. The remaining levels are just not as good as the first half of the game. You can't really make an argument otherwise. Easily, however, the worst and most boring and forgettable mission is Ascension. It's the one where you pilot the VTOL, and it's pretty bad. Like, the VTOL controls are real sluggish. Your objective's really basic. Trying to fight the aliens in this thing is mostly just annoying because they're tiny targets, and the whole thing's over in literally minutes. Yeah, it's cool that they snuck another vehicle in for you to control, but I'm gonna say this. The thing that a VTOL is known for is vertical takeoff and landing. VTOL. It's not known for combat. It's known for the fact that it doesn't need a runway. Both in the game and in real life, mind you. It's kind of just a short, dull, and annoying mission where the execution leaves a lot to be desired. And number 8 is the Fade from Dragon Age Origins. Up until the Mass Effect series, BioWare kind of seemed contractually obligated to insert at least one really annoying level or sequence into their games. Irenicus's dungeon in Baldur's Gate 2, Manon in Coder, and the Fade in Dragon Age Origins. Depending on who you ask, it's not necessarily the worst level they've made, but it's up there. This one goes down during the Circle of Magi quest, and at a certain point, this sloth demon traps you in the Fade, this weird metaphysical realm where the demons and the spirits come from, according to Dragon Age lore. Sounds cool, right? Sounds pretty interesting, but oof, it is not. You lose all your party members at the start. You travel around to different areas to get different forms that allow you to overcome certain obstacles. Again, sounds interesting, right?
Very well.
The environment is very bad. It's so boring, it's so tedious, and the bulk of your time is spent backtracking. It just goes on so long, too. By the end, you're just begging for it to be over. There's mods that are dedicated to skipping this entire section. That's how annoying it is, especially on repeat playthroughs. Dragon Age Origins is a fantastic game, like a perfect example of what we're talking about with this list, because the Fade just sucks. And number 7 is the Hedron Chamber from Control. One of the all-time great levels in a Remedy game, the Ashtray Maze, is followed by one of them all-time most frustrating. The kinda, sorta final battle of the game, I guess, happens in the Hedron chamber deep within Dimensional Research. The entire level is just a series of brutal arenas with highly damaging enemies, very little cover, and worst of all, no checkpoints, at least at launch. I don't know if it's still as bad as it was back then, but back in 2019, this was a slog of a level. There's nothing worse than carefully and painstakingly making it to the final arena, only to get one-shotted in the back by an enemy that spawned out of nowhere. Now you gotta restart from the beginning, do it all over again, and like... if there was just one checkpoint in the middle, the whole thing would be so much more tolerable, but there's none. It's just pure pain. The funny thing is that's really all it is, too. It's just a series of arenas, and if you don't have the right skills, then the whole thing's nearly impossible. I didn't have the right skills, so I was screwed. And just to add insult to injury, when you do finally manage to beat everything and get to your goal, you find out that you already lost, so the whole rush to get up to the Hedron was pointless anyway. And number 6 is Gears of War 3, Chapter 6, Watery Grave. Gears 3, hugely fun game. But if there's one element that hurt it in the transition from 2-player to 4-player co-op, it is the vehicle sections. Instead of having something cool where one player pilots a vehicle, the other controls a turret, we get this. Basically just a boring 4-player underwater turret section that's as pointless as it sounds. Seriously, this whole section could have easily been covered in like a 5-second cutscene, but instead we get this 15-minute long turret sequence where nothing interesting happens. They try to spice things up a little bit with some scripted events, but you're locked into a turret the entire time, so you really got nothing to do other than shoot enemies. And you might go, it's a shooting game. That's the point. Gears kind of pioneered the cover shooter genre, and it just be plopped into a turret that removes most of the mechanics of the game. This part seems like an attempt to add variety into the game, but it actually kind of limits the game.
There's the turret! Take it out!
Got it! How many more?
Again, the amount of things you can do in this part are so few. It's dull, it's pointless, it really could have easily been cut, and I don't think anyone would notice. Like, it's not particularly painful to get through or anything, but it's the part I dread when I'm playing this game co-op. These games are normally a non-stop joyride, but this level is like sitting in traffic. People hate turret sections that are like a minute or 2 minutes long, and this is like 10 times that. Plus, it's underwater, so it feels slower than it already is. And number 5 is Wolfenstein, the new Colossus, the Courthouse. This is supposed to be a big cathartic moment when BJ finally escapes from the Nazi clutches and goes on a rampage against his captors, but instead of being the power fantasy the game desperately wanted to be here, this level is instead a brutal meat grinder that'll just chew you up and spit you out. Always starts the same. BJ breaks free during his trial, blows away everything that moves. Cool, right? Thing is, you start out with very little and you are immediately swarmed by multiple tough enemies from every section. Staying in the gallery is pretty much a death sentence, and the outside hallways are not a lot better. There's almost no cover, ammo's pretty sparse, and health packs are even rarer. All that, and the enemies really just do not stop coming. There's some turrets at the front of the courthouse, and they seem like they'd be useful, but they're just a trap. Trying to use one of them leaves you pretty exposed, and you just die in seconds. To really rub it in and make you miserable, the whole thing ends up being a dream sequence anyways, which is very annoying. BJ doesn't actually escape, so all those deaths were in his imagination too. It's hard as hell, and while the idea is fine, they could have just made it so when you die in the dream, BJ just wakes up and the game continues. I guess maybe that would have been too easy, but wow, would that have just been better. And number 4 is Diablo 2 Act 3. Diablo 2 is a bona fide classic, but come on. Is anyone out there among those who actually like Act 3? Act 1 is iconic, and some parts of Act 2 can drag a little, but there's just nothing in it as tedious and miserable as Act 3. You're set in a confusing jungle environment with these long, winding paths that mostly lead to dead ends and tons of tiny, annoying enemies. There's so little to like about Act 3. Basically, every enemy manages to be very annoying. The tree dudes, the giant mosquitoes, it's all terrible, but by far the worst is the pygmies, who are these fast, distance enemies. They attack you with blowguns. They're constantly moving, and they're very small, so they're frustrating to target. And there's a shaman that can bring them back to life. They're every annoying thing that an enemy can be in an action RPG, all rolled into one, and there's a whole bunch of them. The worst part is that there's only so much you can even skip. The entire act, basically one long fetch quest, so you have to scour the environment pretty thoroughly to find everything, even when you just want to beeline toward the exit. And number 3 is the sewers from Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. A lot of things that make this game special. The world building, the characters, the story. The sewers don't have any of that, though. Instead, they're this overly long, dull, frustrating mission that can catch new players off guard and just make them miserable. Most missions in Bloodlines are pretty short, but for some reason, the developers made this one just keep going. I don't know what is going on here. It just goes and goes. There's no story, no characters, just corridors, sewers. Which, by the way, no matter what, a sewer is repetitive. It's by nature hallways, and it's filled with all these annoying enemies. And to make matters worse, it's a vampire game, so you gotta suck blood in order to survive, and there's hardly anything down here to eat except rats, and at least one clan can't use rats for blood at all, so they're screwed. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines starts to feel a bit rushed and incomplete in the second half, and to make up for that, the developers just padded out certain combat areas to go on way longer. These sections do not play to the game's strengths. Not even a little bit. And the sewer section is the worst of them by far. And number 2 is Hot Cocoa, or really any jet ski level from the Crash Bandicoot N.Sane Trilogy. This stands out to me because when I first played the N.Sane Trilogy, I was just baffled. So it's a mission where you control Coco on a jet ski, but calling what you're doing here control is generous. Turning is sluggish, unresponsive, the physics seem messed up and heavy. The controls just flat out suck. It felt wrong because I didn't remember the original game controlling like this in this section. And it's because it didn't. For whatever reason, the developers of the N.Sane Trilogy decided to make the jet ski controls quote-unquote more realistic in the most miserable way they could come up with. I know a lot of people complain about the bridge stages and the altered movement and physics of the regular games, and mostly I don't really think it's that big of an issue or even an issue. Here, however, wow, whatever they did to the jet ski controls made them way worse. Any of the jet ski levels would count for this list, but the worst is Hot Cocoa because all the nitro crates just feel impossible to avoid, especially if you're going for 100% completion. Like the N.Sane Trilogy, fantastic remake of some classic games, but these levels could go away or they could make some attempt at making them like the originals. And finally, number 1, Lost Izalith in Dark Souls. This is one of those levels that should have been epic. You're deep in the underworld, and you can literally walk on lava. You have that ability in this level. And you can see the place long before you actually get here. Probably one of the most intriguing teases of the entire game. This giant dome in the middle of a lava lake. What horrors could possibly wait inside? A bunch of dragon asses, it turns out. Yes, you heard that right. You enter the area, turn the corner, and see for the first time an endless sea of zombie dragon buttocks just standing around. Why are they here? What is this supposed to be? I don't know. Out of all the locations hit by Dark Souls Rush development, Lost Izalith got it the worst. There's some different stuff to see when you actually get out of the Dragon Butt Lake, but it's short, cramped, and not all that visually interesting. To cap it off is one of the worst bosses in the entire Souls series, the Bed of Chaos, which is less of a boss and more of a random number generator. Sometimes you just die. Real exciting and dynamic gameplay there. Lost Izalith is also a place that should be so much cooler than it actually is. It's so short and incomplete that it feels like cut content that they just left in the game by mistake. The original Dark Souls is a masterpiece of a game, but this level is not. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.